Hey, welcome back. Now I can finish telling you about Dad. Okay, so taking care of my parents from the previous video. When my parents died, there became this ugliness from my siblings, my two stepsisters and my brother. And I know that they all have this like I was favored or something, like I was spoiled from them or favored and stuff. My two stepsisters were younger than me, and my brother was older, so I was kind of in the middle there. Up until my stepdad and my mom got together, I was the youngest, So, then I became the middle child from about 10 years old on, or whatever. But whether my parents favored me, it's just that whereas my siblings decided to go off and do their own lives and stuff and run their own lives, I still did too. I still hung out with all my friends. I partied, I'd dance, I'd roller skate, I'd do all kinds of different stuff. I'd go hanging out, doing different kinds of activities and stuff with different friends. But I focused on my parents a lot through my whole life. And I told them that from when I was a kid, that I used to tease them that I was going to live at home forever. But when I was a kid, I was serious about that. But as I got older, that changed for a different reason. As they got older, I wanted to make sure that I was there for them to help them, because they put a lot of their time and their life and money into me, raising me into who I am. My mom is the majority of who I am today, because she raised me on her own when she divorced my biological father. So she's the main part of raising me, that and life experiences. But that's where I get all my people skills from. My mom, she was a genius, and she felt like she was stupid. And I can't remember what year schooling my mom finished in or something like that, but she always felt like she wasn't smart and stuff, but she was super, super smart. Maybe not with mathematics and that kind of smarts, but she had street smarts, people smarts, good etiquette. Her mom taught her how to be polite and about etiquette and how to set tables and all kinds of different stuff. But my mom knew a lot of stuff. She just was smart in different ways. And I pointed that out to her later in life, how wonderful she was, and because she really, I could tell, she always felt like so much less of herself. And I was like, Mom, you know how you always talk about how I'm so smart and I can do anything and how good I am with people and all these different good things that you see and how amazing I am? She's like, yeah. I said, well, where do you think I get that from? Sure, there's a little bit of my stepmom or my biological dad, my stepdad, and I got different influences, but all these main people skills and the biggest part of who I am comes from you, Ma. And she just kind of smiled, like, really? I said, yeah. I said, you don't give yourself enough credit, But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here, and that word snuck in. I heard it. So I started helping my parents, and especially I didn't want them to have to be in a nursing home, and they like camping with their RV and stuff. So in their later years, I just dedicated a lot of time to my parents, And when I was single, I could do that. I've been in and out of relationships that never seemed to work out for me. I always picked these promiscuous women that weren't about being a one-man kind of woman or something, Anyway. And I've never, ever, ever cheated in any relationship I've been in, because that's the way my mom raised me, about monogamy, and you're true to who you're with. And she raised me to be close to God. All my life, that was really drilled into me, not only from my mom, but from my grandpa. And my grandpa always wanted me to be baptized. He said it, even though he was Catholic, baptized Catholic, he didn't care. I ended up being baptized Lutheran, but that didn't matter to him as long as I was baptized, So I was too young there's so many things more I wished I could have learned from my grandpa, but I was too young. And then, into my teenage years, I've drifted away from him. Of course, it's kind of natural becoming a teenager and stuff. But I wished I would have had more time asking him questions and learning about his life. I've learned a lot about him after the fact, but back to, so I don't get sidetracked so much, back to my parents and helping them in the RV. where my siblings are look at it like I was favored and all this, and they all hold it against me and everybody. When my parents all, after mom died, dad died first, then mom died. Everything got really ugly. That's why I'm starting my life over with nothing in a camper, because I have not nice siblings. Oh, I'm glad I can laugh, because most people would not be laughing, and they'd be full of hate and anger and stuff. And I believe me, I'm not happy with them. I'm very disappointed in them. Very, very disappointed in them. And I pray for them that they find the Lord and become better people, and that they truly repent and change their ways, because all the type of stuff they're doing, I don't think it's getting them to heaven, that's for sure. But that ain't for me to judge. That's for the Lord to judge, you know. So, God, I always sidetrack so much. So, the story I wanted to tell about is my parents' big Winnebago. Like, for examples of how I'd be there for my parents, and it wasn't that they were favoring me. I became the workhorse, so that they could live their own lives and still be independent without getting socked into a home or something. My other siblings weren't there for that, you know. But I wanted to make sure as they got older, I want to make sure that their life could be the best I could help make it be till they died. Well, one of the big things I could do is going camping with their Winnebago, the 32-foot Winnebago, twin beds in the back. So I would go with them camping all the time, and pretty much all the time. Not always, but most all the time. Because they were getting too old, you know. They couldn't do all the bending down and getting and hooking up the sewage lines and emptying tanks and loading and unloading the golf cart on trailers and all that extra stuff, you know. They were getting too old for that. So I'd do all that, and that way they could still go camping. And Mom drove the Winnebago the most. I drove it a couple times to give Mom a break and stuff, you know. But Mom was pretty comfortable, and she liked driving it. She'd drive that, even if we're towing the golf cart. Mom would drive it along, and which was good. Dad didn't drive it. He liked drinking, and he'd already had a few D-dubs, so he would sit at the table when we'd go on in between the trips and the runs. He'd sit at the table, smoke his cigarettes, drink his beer or drinks, and read a book as we're going down the road, you know. And a lot of good memories there. Sometimes I'd sit down and talk to him. We'd talk about stuff as we're going down the road. And sometimes all three of us would be talking while Mom was driving. When she was driving, she didn't get too involved with her conversations because she had to focus on driving. But that was fun. It was time I got to spend with my parents. And then when we'd get there, I'd hook everything up, unload the golf cart and all that. But what's cool about the beginning, since Dad was a Vietnam vet, Dad would pack his bags, Mom would pack her bags. After they got their clothes and stuff packed for the trip, Mom would start loading stuff out of the fridge into coolers and stuff for me to bring out to the camper. I'd put Dad's bags on his bed in the camper, or on the floor by his, and then Mom's on her side or whatever. And then that way, once they got there, they could put their stuff where they wanted it. I'm not going through their personables. And then when the coolers would get loaded up and stuff, the food and that, I'd bring that out to the camper. And then Mom would end up coming out to the camper to put the food in the fridge and in the cupboards. I would have done it, but Mom wanted it a certain way, you know. So she's like, "No, I'll do it. You just get it all out there." I'm like, all right, fine, but you know. So Dad, because he was a Vietnam vet, I don't know what made me do it, but when he'd be packing his bags, he started liking that I'd be there all the time to take care of the brunt of the work, you know. So sometimes he'd poke fun with me and be like, "Darren, come on, get in here and get these bags," you know. He kind of liked it. It was kind of like he had a butler, you know. So, and it was fun because then what I did is, and remind you, he was a Vietnam vet in the Navy, and his gung-ho ship that he served on was the USS Coral Sea. He served on the Ranger, the Ranger, the Constellation, and the Coral Sea, where it was 3 ships. And he was in country a bit too. He'd seen some stuff. But God, I got to hear a lot of fun Navy stories from him, Vietnam stories. I got to hear some really bad stories too, you know. But because war ain't nice. But anyway, so because I liked poking fun with Dad and stuff, you know, and he hollers for me to come in and get his bags. So like, he had his office that he spent almost all his time in. It was like his little bunker. You know, he's a Vietnam vet, PTSD. We never even realized he had PTSD until later on. Because he just like always having his own little area and his own little bunker stuff, you know. And but when I come to get his bags, I did my best salute I could. But I come because he hollered at me to come get his bags, and I come into his room, and I just stiffened up and stood straight, and I snapped my best salute, and I said, I shouted, and I just looked straight forward. You know, I didn't look him in the eye because I've watched enough military movies that were pretty accurate. You know, like Full Metal Jacket or whatever. You know, and I just stood straight and just did my best salute, snapped it up there, and I said, "Private Pack Mule reporting for duty, sir." And he turned his head, he snaps, and he looks at me, and he says, "What did you say?" And then I snapped that salute again and held it there. I said, "Private Pack Mule reporting for duty, sir." You know, he wasn't expecting it because, you know, he's been out of the military forever. You know, I'm just a son who likes to goof around. And and because I was so serious and did my best, he was like, "That's right, Private. Get those bags and get them loaded," or whatever, you know. And I could see the smirk on his face. He got a kick out of it, you know. And he did tell me at one point, he said my salute was pretty good, but apparently my elbow was lazy. It was down too low, you know. I should have had my arm up much higher, you know, and I was kind of being lazy. So he did correct me on my salute position a little bit, and I still don't know if I got it right now. If he's here, he'd let me know. So that's just one of the things I did with Dad, just to be silly, you know. But yeah, just because I came up with the idea that I was Private Pack Mule, because I was always doing all the work, that was just perfect. Private Pack Mule reporting for duty, sir. Yeah, he got a kick out of that. So then for a while, I was Private Pack Mule. I think even one time, God, I think we were at the DN campground then, or that. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was, we were getting ready to go to the DN campground again. So I waited for Dad to come out before I brought the bags out. I put them all like in right when you come around the hallway there, the kitchen was kind of open and it looped around. There's a wall in the middle that divided it from the living room. So I set all Dad's bags there and Mom's bags and stuff, and she was in the process of doing the cooler stuff for that. So when I seen Dad coming down the hall, I knew he was coming. So I quick hurried up and I tried to get all of Dad's bags and Mom's bags at the same time. And I tried like putting them up on my shoulders and grabbing the other ones like this. So I just had luggage and bags all over me. And it's just when Dad coming around the corner, I was like, "Oh!" And I'm trying to like salute and I can't because I got all this stuff on me. I'm like, and he just kind of rolled his eyes like he knew I was purposely being a goofball, you know. He just nodded like, "I know what you're up to." But it was funny, and I know he found it funny. But I got him to laugh a lot. I did my best to make Mom and Dad laugh and enjoy life in their older years. One more quick story. Where are we at here? Yeah, I'll tell one more quick story about him. That was cute. So I do understand why my siblings have their own like jealousies and stuff. Because I did get to spend way, way more time with my parents. But that was my choice. So I made it happen. You know, they could have done the same thing. It was all their own choices, you know, but because of their own choices of feeling shortchanged or whatever their other reasons are or whatever it is, because I did spend a lot of time with parents, they have hurt and anger that they're directing towards me from it. But I'm okay with it because I know the reality of it all. I'm sad because I'm disappointed that they acted that way. I actually thought they'd be more of a support system for me, knowing that I was really close to Mom and Dad, that how much harder it would be for me when Mom died. But no, it didn't turn out that way. My youngest sister was the best for a while. You know, she tried either, well, I want to say she tried, but with a bunch of the backstabbing, nasty stuff that's happened, now I don't know if she was sincere or not, or if it was just motive, you know. So I don't know. It's sad. But it is what it is, you know. And I'm okay with it because there ain't no changing it. I forgive them all. because otherwise I'm holding on to all that anger and hurt, the disappointment and stuff. So I'm okay. I forgive them, and I just hope wish they'd find their way to the Lord and be better people. So I'm not, I'm still, all okay with it, of course, but the best you can be, you forgive them and move on with your life rather than hanging on to it to something you can't change. You have to do that in life. Things that happen that bum us out or hurt us, you got to realize that you can't go back in time and change the past, so you have to be able to forgive, and move forward. And then forgive, which I used to always think forgiving somebody was a thing for them, and it's not. Well, it can be kind of, but if it's been for you, so you can move forward in life. If you forgive and let it go. Doesn't mean you got to hang around somebody that hurt you or did bad stuff or rotten stuff that really bothered you. But if you forgive it, give it to God, and then you can live a better, more relaxed life rather than, ooh, that was almost an accident. And it's a valuable thing I've learned about forgiveness. I didn't realize that school bus has an air conditioner on the roof there. So I think somebody's turned that into a camper. That's a pretty nice, still looks like a school bus. So, here are some more stories here, so y'all get to know me a little bit better. Talk to God about anything you're thinking or feeling, and watch how He works in your life. You can talk to God about anything. Pray for anything. You don't have to do it in a special way. If you're talking to God, you're doing it right. And even if you're thinking to Him, you don't have to say it out loud if you really don't want to. Feel more comfortable, you can talk out loud to Him when you're by yourself. And if you're worried about people thinking you're weird or something, well, whisper. All you gotta do is think it though, and look up, like, you'll know. But yeah, talk to God. If you feel like it, tell Him Darren says hi. Thumbs up would be nice. God bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.